I've been pounded and pounded and pounded relationships in here for the last several months. Because that's where it starts. That's what it's all about. And then finally we get to my favorite one. They ask Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? And what did he say? First, this one's in Matthew 22, 36 through 39. Matthew chapter 22, verses 36 to 39. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment of the law? And Jesus replied, say it with me. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. It's the greatest commandment. Then Jesus says, this is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Now I can kind of imagine, if you put yourself in that setting, okay, and you hear them, they go up and they ask Jesus this. And he says, love the Lord your God, love with all your heart, soul, and your mind. And they're thinking, that's kind of what we expected him to say. And then he goes on and says, but the second one's like it. Like it. And think about that. The second one is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. And they're like, we didn't ask for two. We just wanted one. I understand the truth. I understand, but I just wanted the one. I'll tell you why. Because the first one, I can say to you, man, I just love God. We got it going on. Me and God. And I can convince you that I love God with all my heart. That I love God with all my soul and with all my mind. And quite frankly, you can't measure it. You can see me pray. You can see me read my Bible. You can see me every Sunday go to church. You can see me stand up here saying these words. And quite frankly, you can't truly measure it. It's not something that's that visible. It's not that measurable. But the second one, Jesus says the second one is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Can you measure that one? Can you see how you treat people? How about, good old Jim, boy, he's up here Sunday morning, he's telling everybody this, and watch him in line in the grocery store. Right? Watch him in the parking lot, baby. Yeah, he's got it going on, all right. So, I asked myself, I said, Lord, why is this so important? And he says, because the health and maturity of your relationship with me is determined and it's measured by the health and maturity of your relationship with other people. Can't say that enough. Now, like I say, in church, some people grew up in churches where, you know what, you came into church and you were quiet and you were reverent. And you had this vertical thing going on with God. And we could get him as far away and as close as we wanted to get him, individually. And that's comfortable. And we like that. It's an easy place for us to be. But you know what, guys? I think Jesus is saying, I want it to be personal. And I want it to be personal with me. And you can't make it personal with me until you make it personal with others. That's what he's saying. God's saying, it's great if you want to get close to me. And you love to feel warm and fuzzy. Because that makes you feel good. But you know what I truly believe he's saying? That kind of relationship isn't that valuable to me. Unless you have that with other people. And you notice I'm pounding this, but I think that's exactly where he's at. Because he's saying they're one and the same. A relationship with him and a relationship with others are one and the same. The second one is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. So, if you really want to know how you're doing with God, don't gauge it by when you sit in that seat on Sunday morning, you look up and say, oh man, I feel so close to God right now. That song just really touched my heart. That's wonderful that it did. But you gauge it by how you're doing with people around you, people in your family, people you work with. I have a guy right now I work with, and I'm going to tell you something, he is my biggest test. I just can't hardly stand being around this guy. My inclination is I just want to walk away and forget about it. Actually, my inclination is to do something else. but I tend to not do that, and I just want to walk away, and now I'm even questioning myself, is that right? Should I really just try to maybe deal with the guy with kindness, be friendly, show him what we're really trying to profess is true. And I'm struggling with it. So, I'm preaching to myself, guys. So really, if you want to look and you say, as a Christian, what's it mean to be a Christian? We call ourselves Christian. I have a note here. It says, as a Christian, we claim to be a follower of God. Yet when you refuse to forgive, when you refuse to serve, when you refuse to submit, when you refuse to accept, it is not being a Christian. That's what he's talking about here. As long as I measure my relationships with people based on the way they respond to me, I'm not going to have that healthy, mature relationship that God talks about. Because when I measure it based on how they respond to me, basically then my credo is what? Do unto others as they do unto me. And what's God saying? Well, we all know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And really the truth is, we need to measure our relationship not based on what they do to us, but based on what God has done for us. That's exactly how it breaks down. It's pretty simple. Remember Christ's practical messages. You will know, they will know you are followers of mine, not by your church attendance or by how much you pray, but by how you treat other people. Now these are not my words, you guys. That's Jesus saying that. They'll know you are disciples of mine by how you treat other people. And I just want to drive that point home. Now, so you say, Jim, what does that mean? How do I treat other people? Look at Ephesians 4. Ephesians 4, Paul is basically saying to us, it's got its unity in the body of Christ. As a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Are you patient? Boy, that's a real virtue of mine. How about you? You guys patient? Patience is a rough one, I must say. By the way, that word calling, let's go back to that real quick. As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. What's calling mean? You know what calling means? Invitation. It's an invitation. And that's what Andy Stanley's talking about when he says that special invitation. Live a life worthy of that invitation. Now, when you guys get invitations to things, if you get a wedding invitation, don't you think there are certain expectations that go along with that invitation? Generally, you're going to get a gift. You're going to generally dress up a little bit, right? You're going to try to be on time or a little bit early. These are expectations. Well, it's the same way here. God gives us an invitation here. He says, I urge you. In fact, his words. I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling of the invitation you received. And he tells you what that is. Humble, patient, gentle. So there's an expectation that goes with it. That's what I'm trying to say. Almost any invitation you receive, there's always an expectation that goes with it. Now, somebody might look and you say, humble, gentle? Yeah, man, that sounds like the warm and fuzzy people stuff. Stuff that Mike likes so well. You know? Yeah, he says, I already said I have it going on with God. You know, don't make me step out of my comfort zone and do this warm and fuzzy stuff. He says, guys, it's so easy when you look around and you have this vertical thing going on with God, and it's so easy and it's so comfortable. Then you look around at this, and it's so chaotic. And you don't want to be patient. You don't want to be humble, and boy, most of all, you don't want to be gentle. How many times could God have looked at situations in our lives, instead of being gentle, man, he could have powered up. He could have powered up, and he could have really sent us a message, you know, could have given us a good one. Instead, he shows humility